Hi, I'm Bob. Thank you for joining me in the microeconomics course that focuses on practicing the exercises and problems. I'm confident that your economics knowledge and problem-solving skills are improving. Keep up your good work. If it helps, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have the ability, please join the channel and become a supporter. Your support is the motivation for me to continue my work. Thank you. Let's find answers to exercise 2.1. In the application, compensating variation and equivalent variation for smartphones and Facebook, people were asked how much they would have to be paid not to use the internet, or what else they would have to give up to keep using it. Using a graph to illustrate the compensating variation and equivalent variation in this application, what is a better way to determine the equilibrium variation? The compensating variation, CV, is the amount of money that is given to the consumer to offset the harm from a price increase. The compensating variation can shift the new budget line back to be tangent to the original indifference curve. When calculating the compensating variation, we use the new prices and the old utility level. That is, the budget line after the price increase, and the original indifference curve corresponds to the compensating variation. The consumer is at the new price system or the new situation. In this case, the new situation is without the internet. The consumers are without the internet when we talk about the compensating variation. By contrast, the equivalent variation is the amount of money the consumer is willing to give up to avoid the price increase. That is, the budget line before the price increase and the new indifference curve after the price increase correspond to the equivalent variation. The consumer is still facing the old prices or the old situation. In this exercise, the old situation is having the internet. The consumers have the internet when we talk about the equivalent variation. The question how much they would have to be paid not to use the internet is about the compensating variation because the consumers are at a new situation without the internet. They are given the money to be kept at the old utility level. The question what else they would have to be give up to keep using the internet is about the equivalent variation because the consumers are in the old situation using the internet. The money is taken away to lower their utility as if they were without the internet. The graph is as follows. I1 is the indifference curve for the situation with the internet. I2 is the indifference curve for the situation without the internet. Suppose the consumer is at bundle B. Compensating variation is the amount of money that should be given to her to make her as good as at her old indifference curve, I1. Suppose the consumer is at bundle A. Equivalent variation is the amount of money that should be taken away from her to make her as bad as at the indifference curve, I2. Let's solve exercise 2.2. According to a 2018 survey, 41% of single-employed millennials without children would be willing to dump their partner for a $37,000 raise. Was the survey asking a compensating variation or an equivalent variation question? The survey was asking a compensating variation CV question. It is about how much money should be given to the consumer to offset the inconvenience of living without her partner. The money can raise the consumer's utility to the original indifference curve with her partner. Let's do exercise 2.3. Redraw figure 5.4 for an inferior good. Use your diagram to compare the relative sizes of compensating variation, consumer surplus, and equivalent variation. The demand for an inferior good falls when income increases. In the indifference curve and budget line diagram, the consumer's initial bundle is A. After the price increase, the bundle is B. The corresponding demand curve going through A and B is the uncompensated demand curve. The bundle C is determined by the tangency of the imaginary budget line parallel to L2 and the original indifference curve I1. The corresponding demand curve going through A and C is the Hessian demand curve for the compensating variation. The bundle D is determined by the tangency of the imaginary budget line parallel to L1 and the new indifference curve I2. The corresponding demand curve going through B and D is the Hessian demand curve for the equivalent variation. Compared to figure 5.4 in the textbook, point C and point D are to the left and to the right of points A and B for the inferior good. Now, the change in consumer surplus is the area A plus B. The compensating variation is the area of A. The equivalent variation is the area A plus B plus C. The equivalent variation is larger than the change in consumer surplus, which is larger than the compensating variation. This is the case for an inferior good. Let's solve exercise 2.4. Suppose that Lucy's quasi-linear utility function in solved problem 5.2 is as follows. Compare her compensating variation, equivalent variation, and the change in consumer surplus. We can plug the values into the formula in the solved exercise 2.4. Note that P2 equals 1 in that exercise, but it equals 4 here. Thank you very much for solving the exercises with me today. See you tomorrow with the rest of the exercises. Goodbye. Thank you for watching this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. See you next time.